Hi, and welcome to a working lunch with Nordin. We're very excited to have an AI expert with us today. Vicks, thanks for joining us. I'm kind of excited to learn from you today, and I'm excited to find out more about what's going on in the world of AI. Of course, you're one of the speakers for the upcoming Malaysia Global Business Forum event on addressing weaponized information in the media. So I'm going to ask you about the role of AI and the media and a little bit of crisis, what happens there later on in the show. But starting with kind of where we are now, where are we with AI in Malaysia and around ASEAN for that matter?
Thanks, Nordin, for this working lunch. I think it's awesome.
Yeah.
I like this whole session. With regard to AI adoption, is still very slow. All right, in Malaysia, in Asia. Let me give you an example. There's a lot of challenges with regard to AI because you need data, all right? And you can't just say, I got an AI application. It doesn't work that way. You need lots of data. You need data over a period of time. So you look in Asia perspective, you look in China is different. They are very advanced in relation to AI. Look in Southeast Asia, there's a lot more to be done. So I'll give you an example. AI, there are many aspects. So one of it, I'll just use computer vision as an example. All right. So with regard to manufacturing, you want to automate certain aspect of the process. Let's say defect detection. All right. Today you have manual workers looking at defects and then passing out, removing it, and keep it going. All right. Now with AI, you use a camera with an edge computing at the edge of the camera, so the AI will actually able to inspect the defect and make the decision and use a robotic arm to remove it. So how does it work? It doesn't happen overnight. It needs a lot of data points. All right. So all the defects are captured, it's stored, it's then build data models over a period of time. That's how the defect detection really works. It can't run on its own. So to create an AI application, it's not overnight. It needs a lot of data points. So, example in a manufacturer that's it's got defect in relation to manufacturing certain type of bottles, all right, and they manually inspect those bottles, all right, and all right, manually inspect. I'm just looking at the private chat. So, manually inspect the bottles, and then now that takes a lot of time. There's a lot of error. Now with the computer vision AI at the edge, it's able to actually detect a defect in the bottle and then able to actually control the robotic arm to remove the bottle or say pass it through. Now, before that happens, there's a lot of data points needs to be captured. So the customer with this vendor, we need to actually establish what is the defect and what's not the defect, and let the AI learn what is the defect, non-defect, and then apply the data model, and then it will run automatically. And it will take a period of time. It's like a kid. You teach a kid how to learn. So that's where computer vision comes in with regard to AI. Then you have AI in relation, individuals talk about, you have voice recognition, AI application. That's still far away to go. I look at it more on industrial purposes, fit for purpose application. Right? So that's why I would say we're still far away. And I think the challenge is the business case to justify the investment of putting an AI application together. We're still trying to find the sweet spot for it.
Can I ask you about this like investment kind of thinking? Now, when I think of like, okay, I think AI, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Terminator, 1982, like robots can run around killing us. From a business perspective, what is kind of like an entry point? Where should a company start with their AI journey, and does it need to be like mega expensive, or are there kind of like, okay, these are some cheap ways in? Let's be honest, we've got a massive problem in Malaysia with foreign labor, and for me, there's an opportunity for reducing foreign labor if you get the right equation with technology, whether it's AI technology or robotics or just any other technology for that matter. But it's got to be a business viable reality for business people. What's this? Where can we start?
Okay, so let's say in a company that wants to implement AI, I wouldn't say you shouldn't say, "Hey, I want to implement AI." I should say I want to go through a digital transformation. All right, that's the objective. AI is just an enabler to the whole digital transformation. So most of the clients that we deal with, they say, I want to digitize my process. So the question we ask them is, why do you want to digitize? They say, listen, I spend a lot of money on workforce, that there's delay in implementation or delay in the process. So we establish the key areas that we need to automate the processes. So either we bring in aspect of putting in some sensors, IoT, and capture those information. Therefore, you don't need manual intervention. So that's one way of putting a automated process together. Now, while you do that, you talk about labor force. Now, the labor force is very cheap. All right. Some of the clients will tell me, listen, uh, why should I invest in a technology when I can have 5 Bangladeshi workers for for almost for 10,000 ringgit or for 10 of them or 8 of them, so very cheap. All right. Now the challenge is the labor force is challenged now because it's cheaper. Now we don't have those foreign workers anymore. It's tough, and a lot of SMEs are struggling. So this is where we sit with them, and we need to establish the pain points and establish how do we justify the cost benefit, and we take them through a journey. Nordin. You can't just do it overnight. So we look at all the processes. We establish the top 3 processes first and establish what are the pain points, the losses, the impact to their business. And then we say, okay, let's look at each one step by step, and then we will automate those processes. Based on the automation, we start collecting the data. The first stage is they start to see visualization. They understand, okay, based on the automation, I can see this information that is flowing through. And over a period of time, they can start to optimize based on the data that their assets, right? And then the next stage, you start doing prediction. So this is where AI will come into play at the background to establish and guide through the machine learning exercise. Right? It's a journey you take with the client, and you have to establish the business case. So foreign workers can't do everything. When you talk about in a automation industry, all right, look at manufacturers. Let's say the automakers, all right, they want to assemble cars, all right. Now, there's certain aspects is automated with robotics, right? Certain aspect you need manual intervention, right? So some areas we need to define what is it that you want to automate, and then we use the thing. You take the foreign workers, go to agriculture, all right? When it comes to agriculture, we have a big issue with food security in the nation, in the region. Look at agriculture. Now, there is a lack of foreign workers, so we have an issue. Right now, how do we automate that process? How do we use technology and IoT and big data and AI to help manage the food security issues that we have in the country? And that's where we need to start to look, because we're always looking at cheap, 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 cheap. It doesn't work. And then when the pandemic hit, we realized without the workforce, we should have actually digitized some of our processes. So this is where we need to start adopting technology.
Well, I'm glad to see Muro has also joined us.
I'm just rambling on because I'm trying to understand.
No, it's good. I just noticed our good friend Muro is joining us. We're going to get him next week on the show, hopefully. He's also been on the show before. But now, I wonder. I mean, one of the things that we've seen in what we do in the media is we've been using machine learning and all these algorithms to understand social media content. And it actually changes the way we think and able to deliver different products to our customers. Before, a few years ago, there was like, oh, you're having a crisis, and we just say, yeah, it's really bad. But it's like we didn't know how bad it was. But now we can actually use those tools to get us to a solution faster. And it saves tons of money, actually. And this is one of the things that I think, whether it's agriculture, media, or this whatever industry, automotive, we've got to get to that digital transformation component. How much human capital in Malaysia is in this field? Are like young graduates thinking to themselves, "Hey, I'm going to be part of the digital evolution," or are they still thinking, "Oh, I want to be an engineer, like, or a doctor?" What's your experience there?
Okay, so let me give you a bit of an experience from the young, fresh graduates that come out. They come with a lot of excitement because they learn some new technology in uni and apply. Then when they get into the workforce, they realize the companies they work for are still very backwards. They're still using desktops. They're still very archaic in the process in the business run, right? So they get demotivated. They feel I learn all this stuff in AI. I look at what's happening in US. I go and join a company, but they say no, no, no. You just do this. You don't need to do that. You just fill up the form this way. A lot of manual processes. So they get demotivated. They go backwards. So I look at leadership in all these companies. They need to tell themselves, if I want to stay relevant, all right, I need to actually start adopting digital transformation programs in the company. I need to start making sure the people that I hire is motivated to work, especially from an engineering perspective, right? So that they will be able to innovate and grow the organization. If I don't digitalize, I don't grow, I won't hire the right individuals. I won't be able to collaborate with other tech companies. So I'll be backwards. So this is where I go to the leaders. I say, end of the day, you complain about the young graduates or they're lazy, know what they're doing. Actually, it's we don't create the environment for them from a digital perspective. Right? So I find this is a challenge. Uh, so I find a lot of fresh graduates saying they're struggling at work, and they're saying, "I'm not happy, I leave." So with the pandemic, the last 2 years, you see the whole thing about the great resignation. A lot of people have resigned. They realize I can do a lot of stuff on my own from an e-commerce platform and etc. So this is where I go back to the leaders. They need to step up and say, I need to invest upfront, and therefore I will be able to attract the right employees, the workforce, to grow the organization.
Mhm. Now, Rosanna's asked us a couple of good questions. Of course, she's an editor, so she always comes up with good questions. Now, acceptance to AI. What, in terms of scale of 1 to 10, where would the average SME in Malaysia be? Where would the average GLC be? And where would the average multinational corporation set up here? Like, give me a ranking of those three. I'm putting you on the spot right now. Like, where are
Yeah,
we?
I would say
I said I wouldn't do it, but I lied.
yeah, our SMEs. I mean, I go back to about AI and data, big data, and our SMEs are, I would say, three in ranking three. GLCs are about 5 or 6. The multinationals, the big boys who are based here, they are already about 7 and 8. So you talk to the guys like Bosch, ABB, they have actually have their own digital transformation and they are moving forward. Look at DHL and how they're moving forward. So the multinationals are the 8 and 9, the GLCs are about 5 and 6. You talk about GLC, I want to be. You look at all the companies; they're very concerned about implementing AI because they need to invest money upfront. So it's a challenge. SMEs, I can't blame them because they have an issue because their margins are small. If they were to spend on digital transformation, they need to go through a journey. So they struggle. That's why they're, I would say, in the 3 and 4. Uh, and they need support. They need support from the government to come up with some grant or incentive to support them to move forward. That's where I think what to address that all those issues that you asked me to rate 3, 5, and all. We need the government needs to come up with a digital maturity model where we start doing assessment, digital assessment of all companies through a very simple mechanism to see where they stand in regard to digitalization, all right, and comparison to the big boys. So then we know our standing. We exactly know where we are. It's no use just giving them the grant and saying, okay, go and do some digital. Doesn't help, all right. So this is where I think we need to come up with some digital assessment program It runs across all companies, and it should become mandatory. If you want to apply for a loan or grant, you should have done a digital assessment program, and you should be given a ranking.
I like that idea because you're putting things into a framework that then can be built into a broader development within the economy. And I think that's interesting. Now, another question is around two questions. One around the B40, which I'm going to get to in a bit. Another one is we're starting to look at some of the threats. Now, of course, we see a lot, and this is what we're going to also discuss around the next Malaysia Global Business Forum, is when these threats get weaponized in the media.
Yeah.
But from a cybersecurity perspective, and now a lot of companies take that, okay, let's go for some digitalization, let's do it. They wake up in the morning, the board says let's go for it. Are they opening a box of worms, or are they leaving the back door open because they don't have that security in place? Is there a threat there?
Okay. I like the question, Nordin, because every time people talk about digital transformation, they don't even think of cybersecurity or cyber protection. Everyone just talks about digital transformation. And I think cybersecurity is becoming more prominent or getting more importance at this point in time, because we are creating a lot of data that is digital and is available easily in the cloud, all right? The cloud protected. And then a lot of digital transformation programs are brought about because it comes from the board. Okay, I want you to get into a digital transformation program, assign someone, find the cheapest way to do it, go ahead and do it. So they don't look at cybersecurity. Cybersecurity is like selling insurance, all right? It's not easy to sell insurance because no one wants to buy insurance because like I don't need the money now. I don't need this. Why should I pay? Not knowing whether I'm going to use it later. All right. When it comes to digital transformation, it's very clear. I can build a business case, cost benefit analysis is very clear. I automate. I can improve your asset optimization by 30%, increase your operational excellence by 25%. Very clear. All right. But when it comes to cybersecurity, it's a challenge to into a line or a company to adapt because they struggle to justify it. So my point to them is, you know for the fact today your data is available everywhere and easily, and anyone can access. And it's not just putting a firewall, all right? It's a people, process, and system needs to be in place. You need to educate about data protection within the organization. You need to explain. I give an example. Someone mentioned this to me. You go to any company. I'm throwing this now. Huh? You go to any company, you go to the reception, you leave a thumb drive on the table, and you walk away. All right. The receptionist, what do you think the first thing she will do? You take this thumb
Plug
drive,
it in.
put it into a laptop. Bang. I'm already in. That's it. All right. So you can put all the firewall. So it's educating the employees, saying why it's so important to protect the data, the company, at every level, from the person entering the door, going in through the company. It's important you protecting your asset. It's not about, oh, we don't want to share. We are protecting it. At the same token, who am I going to share? Right? Then you go down to what are the processes we have put in place. Let's say there's a cyber threat. What are the actions we need to take? How do we take that? Who's responsible? We need to create the ownership, primary, secondary, etc. And what are the platforms we have in place to manage it? Then we look at the system. So the same process of digital transformation, you look at the people that you want to actually look at the processes and get them to own it, and look at the automation. And that's the same token you do the cybersecurity aligned with digital transformation.
I like it. I mean, we're going to dig more into that topic next week with Muru, I think, who is.
Sure.
But we are starting to see this convergence of understanding that digital transformation, cybersecurity, the human capital component, all of this is starting to lead to where the economy needs to get to attract the investors in. And I think Malaysia is starting coming to that point where we're going to say, look, this is the thing. For me, there's still plenty of work to be done with infrastructure, and infrastructure is going to be an ongoing game. It's everyone's okay. 5G is important. for like a week, and then it's, now let's talk 6G, and in a couple of years it'll be something else G, but the other question, and Victor asked this very good question, which is the B40. A lot of the work that they're doing now is very repetitive work. This is the work that's going to be removed by
with AI and
digital.
automation.
Yeah, it's just going to clear out all that. For me, it frees up their minds to do like higher value work. But are we preparing them for a digital economy? Are we preparing them to deal with AI? Are they ready? What do you think?
Okay. I just want to park that question for a while at one side, and then I'll come to that point. You see, the challenge we have today is that the B40 or the M40, the T20s or whatever. The challenge is a lot of these guys they've forgotten how to learn. Okay, you can't upskill and reskill someone who don't know how to learn already, because they've not been learning for like 20 years. They finished school and started working. All right, we don't have a culture of continuous learning. A lot of companies don't have the culture of continuously upskilling and reskilling their employees. Only recently they say, oh, we need to upskill, reskill. And then when you go to the employees, like, okay, put me in front of a training program, I just listen, shake my head, I do the assessment, I walk away. But no one has taught me how to learn. All right. So I think that's a key challenge. So if we can come up with a program with the government's initiative, let's find a way to educate our people how to learn again. The interest to upskill and reskill, the attitude towards learning, why it's important, training them the methodology of capturing information and using it to your advantage, the thought process, how to learn should be coming through the government's initiative with the private education institution. Now, with that in place, we will then take that same model and we go to the B40s, right? The B40s, when I saw this program, oh, let's train everybody, go to HRDF Corp and they will do all. I'm like, guys, you just go there for the sake of just going. But then you're not training them how to learn again. They've forgotten how to learn, all right? So the B40s need to be actually taken care in a very, very structured manner, not just sending them for training, but putting them through a program and telling them things like digital transformation is there already. AI is going to be part of our life. Embrace it, adapt it, and how to apply it to your life. Even AI is being used for education, all right? Programs and stuff, how to learn stuff. AI is working in the background. They will know your how interactive you are. It's able to actually assess you while you're running through the program. So we need to make sure we educate the B40. Now the B40 you've got a language issue, you have a cultural issue, all right? And it has to be handled not purely based on technology. You have to look at it holistically, and you have to look at it regionally. Every state, the B40s are different. When I go to Sarawak and Sabah, the B40s are different there. I come here, I go to the northern side, southern side, they're all different. We need to handle them state by state with very clear KPIs and how to adopt digital. We need to bring digital to them. So bridging the digital divide is not about just giving them broadband. We need to bring the digital program to them, create little outlets, get university students, final year part of their internship, go and do a 6 months, go to the rural area, educate all the rural people about technology, go to the B40s, go to certain areas, run a training program, teach them what you have learned about technology and how it's going to help you, give them ideas, all right? So I think you need everyone to come together, not just the corporates and technology, but everyone coming together.
Now, Vix, we've got a couple other questions, one from Isabel and one also from Danu. Danu is asking about how does AI and how does technology change culture? Isabel is talking about how does it make work easier? Can you answer those two questions in 2 minutes? Go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. How does technology make work easier? I think it's important. First, you have to ask, why do you want to adopt technology? You must ask that question. I want to adopt technology in my company because I want to improve performance, I want to increase profitability, etc. Then we go down deeper. What are the current processes that we do today manually? I can now adopt technology. That means digitizing the data and digitalization of the process. So you use that step-by-step approach to go through the journey with it. Don't do a big bang, it will fail. You go one step, and the most important thing is every step of it, make sure the people who owns those processes are involved in working towards the automation. All right. Therefore, they become more involved, and then they be able to do extra other than just the manual work. What was the other question, Nordin? Sorry.
About culture, how does culture change when technology is adopted in a company?
Okay, culture, to be honest, it starts from the top. Okay, with more technology coming in place, we need to increase EQ, or need increase. So when you talk about ESG, environmental, social, and governance, when social, I go down deeper, go into DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusiveness. Now, with technology coming into play, companies need to emphasize on DEI. Therefore, their employees will feel they're part of the journey. They don't want to feel that technology has taken over their job. They still need it. There's a diversity, there's equity in place, inclusiveness in making decisions. So there's a lot more now to have interacting with your employees than before. So the culture is more to getting people involved so that the digital process will let it run on its own. Because we talk about ESG, it's going to be the most important thing. Mate, I know today is AI. AI is actually just going to, ESG is going to differentiate organization adoption of ESG. Because ESG requires digital transformation. There's an impact to the environment, the impact to the social, internally the employees, and the community, and then the governance processes internally and externally. So all these three is so important when it comes to digital transformation.
Now, Vix, I want to ask you about, and you mentioned this idea of big bang and slow rollout. Now, for me, from like a media guy perspective, right? I'm thinking I want a big story, and companies like, okay, we're going to do all this, and I can go and launch something. Of course, I want you to say yes, go ahead, do it. But how do we get companies to kind of bring that story to the media, and do the people within those organizations realize that the digitalization, the journey around that, is part of their media narrative?
Okay. You see, I'm going to think slightly outside about for the company to show that they are making a big bang in digital transformation. I'm thinking outside. They need to show how the digital transformation is impacting the internal uh, governance of the employees and the processes. Plus, which is so important, how digitalization allows the organization to collaborate with other organizations and co-create and create more new solutions to solve problems. So, example, if I'm a company, I want to go to digital transformation. Let's say I am in the food industry, all right? I'm in the manufacturing in the food industry. Now, if I was to collaborate with another partner and say, let's come up with a digital transformation program where it will help the nation's food security. You are in supply chain, I'm in manufacturing. Let's create a digital transformation that cuts across board that will address the food security. That's a big bang.
Hmm.
Because everyone's selfish. Oh, I'm doing this. So what? But is your digital transformation impacting your employees, your partners, your community, and the government? That's digital transformation in a true big bang is everything you do must have an impact to the community, to your other partners and enterprises, and the government.
Hmm. Now, Vix, I want to talk on the flip side of this problem. When everything goes well, what happens when everything goes wrong or you're not part of a digital transformation? Do companies realize not getting on board is a potential crisis for them in the future?
Okay, if all goes wrong for them, I only thing I can say is I feel sorry for you. I told you so. All right, because the messages are everywhere. Nodin, everyone's been telling you need to go through. And to be honest, the last 2 years, the pandemic, I'm looking at the positive side. It's created a level playing field for everybody. It's all those companies that were just playing games and doing stuff for the sake of doing it, and the pandemic is actually created a level playing field for new players and new rock stars, all right, and also the old guys to also transform and move forward. Now, those organizations did not embrace these 2 years, what has happened to us locally and globally. That means you're going to struggle when the gates open up, because you're going to be left behind. You become irrelevant. So if you want to change, it's never too late. My request to these companies: put up your hand, ask for help. Put up, acknowledge you have not done your transformation. I don't say only purely digital, but also your people and process. People have changed the last 2 years. Your processes need to change, and acknowledge I need help. Find partners to come together, work with you, build a business case. Nothing's for free. Let me be honest. If anyone does work for you for free, you will not you won't appreciate it. It won't work. So you need to put some money on the table.
I just want to have a quick shout out from Mariza from Jakarta, who always joins us every week. Thank you, Mariza. It's always good to have you. Is our Kia cheerleader in Jakarta. I'm so excited when borders start. I think my first trip will be to Indonesia to see all our friends there. Now, Isabel has also asked a very important question, and this goes to like technology foresight and kind of what is just over the horizon as a CEO or as someone who may be in charge of a transformation of a company. What can I expect in the next 12 to 24 months that I need to be ready for?
Okay, so let's talk about everyone's talking about 5G, all right? Uh, Everyone's talking about how 5G is going to impact the country. Uh, I feel 5G is important in relation to AI and automation, etc. The next 12 to 18 months, 5G is going to make an impact to B2B, business to business. It's going to be private networks. It's not for B2C. It's not for consumers, 5G. Those who adopt 5G technology into their digital transformation, who can afford, the business case justify, they will start to see an improvement. All right. So 5G is going to play a big role in the next 12 to 18 months. All right. I see AI with regard to computer vision is going to be an impact going forward, because you're going to use cameras, CCTV cameras with edge computing at the edge, able to actually establish the person or the object or the defect in real time, and making decisions in real time at the edge. The next 12 to 18 months, I see that happening. All right. The third is I see new tech rock stars who are going to actually come up with applications that are actually going to support an AI aspect. They are actually going to come up with short applications, small applications, to allow SMEs and companies to adopt digitalization very quickly in 1 or 2 processes. So these are the players that I'm looking for from a sense of digital CEO. We are looking at creating an ecosystem of tech partners, and we realize a lot of startups who are creating these solutions. We are taking them and we're building them into a solution stack, 1 + 1, 2, 3 startups, and we create a solution that's going to be very impactful going forward. So there's no one company that's going to solve all the problems. We need to have these players coming on board, building the solution stack and going to market. So we at Sense of Digital, we call ourselves as digital tailors. We make fit for purpose solution. That's what is going to be the tagline going forward. Fit for purpose solution that the cost benefit is very, very clear.
Excellent. I'm excited to get fitted out in my new digital suit. I'm going to come and see you. I'm just going to make sure I look good. You really good. You got to look good. Businesses will. I think also the trend is global supply chains are going to become more and more competitive, more and more digitized. And if you're not digitized, they just can't deal with you. And you can't be part of that big global growth story, which will be what happens post COVID-19, and we're seeing some of those numbers start to come in already. Of course, you're going to be speaking at our up and coming Malaysia Global Business Forum event coming at the end of the month, which is addressing weaponized information in the media. Before we close off today, we're only supposed to go for half an hour, but talking it's always like this, Vicks. We always get carried away. What do you see that we need to be focused on? I always have this silver bullet question. If there's one thing that a CEO should do after listening to this, apart from give you a call, what should they do to start themselves on this digital journey in a meaningful way?
For me, all CEOs and leaders who want to start digital transformation, they need to be hands-on. They need to own the transformation, not pass it to the CTO and CIO. They need to say, I'm going to own the transformation program. I'm going to drive the transformation program across the organization. That's my ask from all the leaders.
Brilliant. Thank you very much for your time today, Vicks. And I'm looking forward to seeing you in person at our upcoming event. It's on the 24th. For those with a bit of information coming up after this, for everyone who's interested to meet up with myself or Vicks, you can attend that event in person. Of course, we will have strict SOPs and that, of course, in line with all government regulations. With that, Vicks, I want to thank you for joining us today, and thank everyone who joined us today for a Working Lunch with Nordin, and we will see you again next week on a Working Lunch with Nordin.
Pleasure. Cheers.